What's good, people? It's your boy Chad from the Realest Podcast Ever with a major announcement. 2025 tax season is officially here, and we're partnering with Philly's #1 tax accountants to get you the maximum refund for the least expensive price. All tax season, TP Taxes is doing $75 simple returns, and you don't even have to come to the office to get it done. 1099s, LLCs, corporations, we got y'all covered as well. Contact us today at 215-TP-TAXES or visit us online at tptaxes.com to lock in your free consultation from the best accountants in the country. Mention TRPE to unlock additional discounts and financial services.
Y'all's the hate on all of my moves, but now niggas on it. Y'all used to bait me on me and my views, but now niggas on it. I used to tell them I'ma have me a show, but now niggas on it. Her homies on it, your homies on it. Y'all's the hate on all of my moves, but now niggas on it. Y'all used to debate me on me and my views, but now niggas on it. I used to tell them I'ma have me a show, but now niggas on it. Her homies on it, your homies on it. Realest Podcast.
What's good, people? We back. Realest Podcast Ever here on location once again. I'm with my guy, Tom Pender, TP Taxes, 5613 Walnut Street, #1 tax accountant in the city of Philadelphia, man. We did a great episode with Tom a couple of months ago. Got a great response. It's one of our biggest episodes that we did of the year so far. So I just kind of wanted to circle back, bring Tom back with the closing out of tax season. You know, we only got like a month to go for, personal returns needing to be filed and all of that. Business stuff is, depending on when y'all watching this, is either tomorrow or it's passed already. So, with all of that in mind, we just wanted to revisit some of the stuff that we talked about, introduce some new things, and talk about the scam world. It's a lot of skimming and scamming going on this time of year also, man. And, with having an expert like you at our disposal, I want to, pretty much, review all of it and, arm people, with the information that they need, in order to, to be successful and avoid these pitfalls and don't get indicted, most importantly.
Definitely not.
Definitely don't want to get indicted. What's going on, brother?
Not much, man. How you been?
Good to see you.
We'll be starting that. Been a rough tax season so far.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask you, man. We're a full 2 months in the tax season. What's been some of the trends and stuff that you've been noticing in terms of, maybe like managing expectations with customers, what you can claim this year versus what you can't claim? Like, what are some of the trends that you're noticing through the, the first 2 months of tax season?
So we do a lot of business returns. Right now, first and foremost, the most important thing is corporate returns, partnerships, nonprofits, they all do March 15th.
March 15th.
So I got till tomorrow to get them in or put the extra extension in. So that's the main thing. I mean, if you ain't got your books together, then you might as well get your extension in now so you don't get hit with them late fees.
Right.
On the back end, it's like $600 per partner or per person.
Oh, wow.
If you file late and you don't do your paperwork. So you definitely want to get them extensions in if you don't. I mean, hopefully they see this before.
Right.
They can get that out. Our main problem that we might be having that's really draining us this year, since we do so many business, we do a lot of personal, but it just seems we got an influx of business returns.
Got you.
And no one has their books together. So that makes the process harder to get done because they don't even know their numbers. They're like, oh, just here goes my paperwork.
Right. Thinking that y'all going to crunch the numbers for them.
Right.
And consolidate everything when they supposed to have that so that you can streamline the tax process.
Or some people don't even know their numbers. they just come to me like, what you need? And I'm like, well, I don't even know what you did for me to even help you out.
First and foremost, hello. What do you do?
Right.
What's the nature of your business? Is it in person? Is it point of sale? Or is it an online sales channel? Like all of that needs to be considered before they even, get to y'all.
Right. So we definitely need people to start doing their bookkeeping and keeping track of what's going on. It just blows me that people would even have a business and not know what they're making or how their business is doing throughout the year. Like you wouldn't work a job and be like, oh, I want to see my pay stubs.
Yeah, you would know exactly how much.
To the penny.
To the penny. To the penny. Like, no, I'm missing 2 hours.
Right. Right. You should think the same way in your business.
Yeah.
You should be like, hey, I know why I lost money this year, or I know why I'm going to pay more in taxes this year because I made more.
Why do you think that is? That people just generally don't have a handle on like their business operation?
One, a lot of us don't really care. I feel that way. Like we don't think it's important because we mostly just looking for refund checks.
Got it.
And not realize how much it really affects us on the back end.
Yeah.
Until you get this large bill saying, hey, you owe $20,000 in taxes. Then they're like, oh, let me make something up.
Right.
So you need to get ahead of the curve. Bookkeeping is like insurance. So once you're doing all your paperwork up front, you automatically can know a general idea what you're going to owe middle of the year. So quarterly, you should be doing like a review.
Exactly.
Know how much
where we trending.
Right. So if you're going to make $100,000, you know you're about to owe $30,000 if you're a regular LLC.
Yeah.
$18,000 if you're a corp, or et cetera,
Right.
et cetera. But you need to know that up front instead of you coming in the tax season and like, hey, you owe $50,000 and then you don't have the money saved or put aside or anything. You're like, well, where am I getting that from? I already spent it all. So then that's the biggest problem that we have right now. And we hoping more people can understand just from watching this now. Hope they realize how important it is so they don't get into these problems.
Yeah. You mentioned, making sure that people get the extensions and timely, filing of extensions and stuff like that. What's the process for making sure that you got an extension? And what are the resources where they need to go as far as putting that in so that they are protected in that way?
Oh, extensions take seconds. You just give us a call, 215 TP Taxes. Let us know you're trying to get an extension in. Take maybe 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Get the paperwork through for you. And then you set. Then you got until October to file.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. And then at least you know you ain't got to pay that $600 fine.
Right. Yeah, I think people think that the extension process is more intensive than that. So they just kind of like, oh, I'll just file whenever I get it in and whatever. Then they get hit with them penalties, and then it's like they get that sticker shock because they expecting this, what is something totally different.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's like people just be proactive. Don't set yourselves up like that. We talked about that last time. Let me ask you this. How has the volatility in the government and the IRS and all of that right now affected, some of the processes as far as what y'all are doing and the speed of the returns that we seeing right now?
So with all of the changes, it hasn't affected the processing at all of tax returns. Everybody's still getting their money on time.
Okay.
There's always little tweaks that's happening, but there's nothing new than normal. So some returns might not just be available yet because some forms not available yet.
Got it.
So then you're waiting. That's not a Trump thing or anything like that.
Right.
Everything that they're doing will affect us later on more than now.
Yeah. What do you think about, they're basically saying that they're trying to slice the IRS down 20%. What type of impact, with you being, you're leased out as a CFO in your day job, and then all of the business returns and companies you work with, with TP Taxes, how do you think that's going to affect the status of your business and your clients going forward if there's this complete overhaul of the IRS going forward?
I mean, so I feel like they're going to end up pushing more of the work outsourced to us.
Oh, okay.
To be managing and make sure everybody's getting done. That's if they even kept the IRS.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty tough to figure out how they're going to get rid of them totally, which they can. I mean, they can go straight back to tariffs because that's how the government made money before straight through tariffs.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work in the sense of now because taxes is what support people.
Right.
Tariffs support the government.
Do you think that the reliance on taxes for so long, so many, like, what was it, 125 years or something like that now, are we so reliant on taxes that we can't overhaul the government in that way and go back to the tariff system, which is what we actually had at the end of the 19th century into the 20th century and all of that?
You don't want to go back to that.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't. The main thing about the IRS is, so one, when you're filing taxes is, when you're thinking about tax, right, is normally people think, oh, I'll pay a bunch of taxes, but only box 2 of your W-2 matter when we're filing federal returns.
Got it.
So everything else is Social Security and things of that nature. You're only filing taxes based off of what the federal tax you on portion.
Got it.
So now all of that money, yeah, it seems cool when I was just talking to a teacher and she was like, oh, I don't want to pay any tax. And I'm like, well, if you don't want to pay any tax and then I don't pay any tax, how are you going to get paid? Because your physical paycheck comes from everybody's taxes.
Literally from the government.
Right. Like, they taxed us and then paid for your check to go to work to teach everyone else.
Right.
So you got trash man, firefighters, cops, everybody. Yeah. All our taxes is what pays their salary.
I think a big disconnect right now is that people are working for various functions of government and didn't kind of even realize, like they just go to work and they're not realizing, like, if you work for any city function, you work for the government.
Correct.
If you work for any state function, any federal function, you work for the government.
Correct.
Like, it's almost like they think, oh, I work for this agency as opposed to the larger funnel or whatever that's like sending the money down to how they actually, get their salary and get paid.
Right. They're not thinking where the money came from
Yeah.
to actually pay them.
Yeah.
So if we don't have tax, I mean, it could come through tariffs and things of that nature, but if we don't have tax, then
Yeah, like, what's the alternative?
as I said, it's just tariffs, but tariffs not going to be enough to pay for us as well.
Yeah.
Unless that's what creates the wars back and forth where the cost of living just gets high. So
Right.
like we were just talking in the office now of, say, if no one paid tax. Yeah, if you make $100,000, you're like, oh, I paid $20,000 in federal tax. But on the flip side is the person who made $100 million now doesn't pay tax either.
Right.
So we're pissed at the price of eggs. I just bought eggs and it was $8.
$8. I mean, same thing the other day. $8. Brown eggs,
think
$8.
would be if the person didn't pay no tax, they made $100 million now.
Yeah.
Cost of living's got to go in. Supply and demand.
Right.
So no one's thinking about that side. If tax makes the money circulate.
Yeah.
So it'd be a terrible idea for us and then they say, oh, we're only not taxing people that under a certain threshold.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah. Well, I think the new thing is we're not taxing nobody 150 or under.
Correct.
Is the new thing that's being floated. None of this is permanent because they don't know what the fuck
Right.
Seemingly from the outside looking in, they don't know what they're doing. They're floating a bunch of shit, just trying to, put feelers out there and see, like, hey, y'all fuck with this? What y'all think? Whatever. Like, and then they're going to, session with Congress and Senate and all of that based on the feelers that they put out in their brain trust, saying, like, based on what we have thrown out there, we think that this is something we should push forward as an actual law.
I think they do that just to get us excited. Like, one, if you're making under 100, you're not really paying that much in federal tax anyway. I thought if you're doing everything correctly,
Right.
you have a bunch of write-offs.
Yeah.
Especially when you have a business. So let's say you make $100,000, somebody with nothing at all. So a single person with no write-offs, anything at all, you get killed in tax. But if you're actually doing what you're supposed to do and you make $100,000, let's say typically in federal you might pay $16,000.
Yeah.
But if you got $20,000 to your IRA, your income tax went from $100,000, then they're gonna tax you on $80,000.
Right.
Then if you own a home and you got kids and you get a head of household,
Property tax.
everything else. So now your taxable income went from $80,000 to $40,000.
Yeah.
So you really only pay taxes on $40,000, which might be $2,000.
Right.
All right, the government said you don't have to give me the $2,000.
Right. We call
Big
it
deal, right?
even Steven.
Yeah, that's not really a kill for them at all. But you got to think about what they're going to do in the back end to everybody else. So yeah, you didn't pay. You got off to not paying $2,000, but then they might give a tax credit to Elon Musk for $2 million.
Shit, $2 billion. It might at the level that he operating on.
Yeah, it's just always something back and forth.
Yeah.
But we don't benefit. I'd much rather just us pay the tax and then we just need to do what we got to do.
Right. Yeah. I mean, considering that the system is imperfect, but it is what it is. Like, I guess, is this like the best solution that we have? The present system that we got?
Nah.
Or is there something else out there that just people aren't considering? I'm asking you because, like, you are super smart, super sharp. So I'm sure you've thought about this, at least conceptually, of, like, in a utopian society, what is the alternative to, like, tariffs, income tax, state tax, all this shit, like, what's the hybrid program of all of these different options that, like, would make the society function best?
There's no specific thing because my main job is to figure out how to get around it. So regardless of what you say, oh, let's do these 10 things, then I'm just spending my time and will to
Finding workarounds.
how I'm going to pay this. So if I'm rich, then I'm always going to have somebody who's figured it out.
Yeah, you might have a team of people that's figuring it out.
And then I don't pay as much because if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, 1% of America pays like 70% of the tax bill.
Literally.
So they're paying all the bills. And you might hear in the news and they'll say, oh, rich people don't pay tax. They are paying tax.
Yeah.
If 1% pays 70%. They're just not paying it at the highest rate
Right.
they could. But clearly they're still paying majority of the tax bill.
Yeah.
Now, we can do the same exact thing and play it at a lower rate because that's my main, like, I barely pay tax.
Right.
And that's because I mimic whatever I'm taught that they're doing.
Yeah.
What we all can do, but it also means you have less money in your pocket too.
Right.
If you mimic what they're doing.
Where do you think that misconception comes from, you know, the average working class person makes 50, 60,000 a year, where they think like the person that's running a business that makes 60 million a year, creates all this economic trickle down and all of that they don't pay taxes? Where does that perception come from?
Is I think it's pushed just through media to divide everyone. Like, you want poor people to hate rich people.
Class war.
You don't want, right. And everything is a class. Like, you can see the gap that's happening now is there's really no middle class. And I've never really looked at it as middle class. I just only seen rich people who, I think 1%ers are over 700 grand.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the world is under 700 grand.
Right.
So I just think everyone under 700 is poor. Everybody over 700 is rich people.
Yeah.
If you're not in that bad part, and most of us don't want to hear like, oh, you're poor. Like, oh, I made 400 grand last year. Like, but if you talking to someone who made $1 million, he'd be like, oh, you're definitely poor.
You're absolutely poor. You're absolutely poor. Yeah, I mean, just seeing the shift in, you know, income levels and stuff like that. I remember, you know, when I was like in corporate world, like, you know, I came up through enterprise, rent a car. I worked for ADP before doing corporate sales, stuff like that. Like, if you made, you know, 10,000 a month, it was like we popping champagne and like celebrating. And this is like 07, 08, you know, up to like probably 2011, 2012 or whatever. And then just in time, you see this shift where I think now is like you got to make like the top 3% of the country makes like 300,000 a year or something, with 280 or something like that a year or whatever like that, like the top like 3% of earners or whatever. And it's just like, yo, what created that shift of seeing these income levels spike like that is creating more of that chasm between rich and poor?
I mean, so cost of living is increasing. So believe it or not, what's pushed now is that you need 100 grand just to survive. That's not true at all. Because 15% of America make over 100 grand.
Exactly.
So that means the rest of the world is dying.
I think average black person makes like 41.5.
Right.
Across
So
the board, male
true.
and female.
Right. So everything that's being pushed can't be true. Clearly, everyone's surviving and living.
Yeah.
It's just we all want more. And since we're seeing everyone else with more, we be like, oh, that's what I want.
Yeah.
And we losing track of what life really is.
Right.
In the grand scheme of things. So that's when we start to mess things up. So you get into bad financial crunches and things of that nature because you overspent. Like right now, the way things are working look like we're going into a recession. So recession doesn't hurt poor people. You were already poor.
Right.
Like,
you're
not gonna be poorer.
Yeah, you was here before you was already here before the recession. You already was locked in, babe. Your spot was reserved. It's been in a recession for 10 years for you. Like,
So, but the flip side is you can get rich in that time because
Right.
the recession is going to hurt rich people. So if, let's say you did get a refund check for 9 grand during a recession time, and if it's over 2 years, that's 18 grand you might have gotten a recession from claiming kids. We just blew the money somewhere. But we could have took that 18 grand or 9 grand and put it in the stock market and could have came up with the rich people.
Yeah, because all of the stocks are down. This is the time to buy. You win on the upside.
Correct. It's just we don't think like that. We blow our money and then we look for more money to be given to us.
Yeah.
As if we couldn't just do it on our own. That's the great thing about being here. When I think about America in general, I know anywhere else, you're just poor.
Yeah.
You're either rich or you're just with the poor people.
Yeah.
There's no middle class anywhere else.
It's just that people think like, I think people associate poor of like, I'm in a shelter, I'm living on the street or whatever. And it's like, no, that's destitute.
Right.
like at that point, you're destitute. Like you have no options, no resources, whatever. But it's like, you could be working poor. Like if you get your paycheck, pay your bills, buy food, and you have nothing left, you're working poor.
I mean, yeah, you can make 300 grand and still be poor.
Yeah.
It just depends on how your finances all work out. You can make 40 grand and be rich.
Yeah.
If everything's taken care of and you don't really have any bills or anything to worry about, 40 grand is a lot of money if you don't have to worry about a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, technically speaking, my cousin, you know, he works for the city in sanitation department or whatever. For his job, he makes $70,000, $80,000 a year, whatever the case may be. But he own a business that is a multi-million-dollar business or whatever that he started for, you know, $40,000, $50,000 or whatever. So but if you just straight looked at his income, it's like, oh, you're middle class or however you classify it or whatever. But I have this whole other thing over here that is creating my wealth.
But you don't even need to, you don't technically even need more money per se. It's just
Got
you
it.
do the right things with the money. So you can physically make, if you're saying the average household income in Pennsylvania is 50 grand, 2 people working, then you're by yourself and you make 50 grand and you bought your crib, I mean, we're older now, so if we bought our crib at 20, our house could actually be paid off right now. If we really wanted to.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't got no mortgage or anything and you're making 80 grand, it's kind of rich.
Yeah, because what a lot of people don't understand when they looking at financial analysis is where you live on a personal expense level, where you live is usually going to be your highest bill. So if you can eliminate or minimize that, that's what creates the additional cash flow to either invest or, you know, if you're irresponsible, do stupid shit and have your fun with, whatever the case might be. But people don't be understanding that, like even like in these situations, like say like a man and a woman in a relationship, they living together. He make 100 grand, she make 40 grand, but he pays every bill. The fact that she doesn't have to contribute to household expenses or whatever, that's a net cash flow benefit to you. But if you're not doing nothing with that, doing nothing positive, whether it be saving for, you know, a future, big purchase or, some form of investment or whatever later on down the line, or just being generally irresponsible with that money, you're not feeling the benefit of it. And the minute that y'all break up and now you got to pay rent, you get this sticker shock of like, oh shit, like, rent is how much out here? Like, so the average rent, the bottom tier rent is $1,200. Like, and now you confused because you still making that same, 40 grand or 45,000 or whatever, but you didn't save that money that you would have normally had to pay out in any other circumstance if you wasn't in this relationship.
Correct. And you would think even with that extra 40, you would be having it all tied up.
Yeah.
Like the entire 40 should be tied up. All the bills are paid. So
yeah, what
more do you really need? Like we just live above our
opulence, man. People want to live a 1%er lifestyle on a 92%er salary, like, and they just end up overextending themselves and jamming themselves up, whether it be through credit, taking loans to try to do this, and then they mismanage the loan or whatever the case may be. I'm sure you see these scenarios, all the time.
Yeah, we try to coach people through them. I mean, we only got 15, 20 minutes to really talk to our clients.
Yeah.
So we actually try to tell them what to do with the money or where to park it.
Yeah.
And then for that time being, at least to hold them over to the following year. Most people don't do it at all. They've right. spent the money somewhere.
Yeah.
But sometimes we do get to certain people that do listen to them, and it drastically benefits their life.
Yeah.
And that's just from us seeing it from a tax perspective.
Right.
It's like if you had like a financial advisor that's actually with you on a daily basis telling you what to do, that'd be something totally different.
Yeah.
But tax is where it all starts at. And that's where people fail to realize. It's just in the grand scheme of things, what they teach, like the scammers and all that teach you online so you can get bigger refund checks, or people is to have these businesses so you can lose a bunch of money. So
run the business at a loss, and then that creates the refund check. So
you make 100 grand and you got a business and you lose 50 grand in your business. Now, 100 grand, you would have paid you tax, no kids, maybe 16,000. You lose 50 grand, you might get like a $9,000 refund check. You actually think you won.
Yeah.
In the grand schemes, you didn't. So that's why in the previous episode we were talking about, like, refund checks aren't good.
Right.
Because what happens is, I got you a $9,000 refund check, but then in turn you go to the bank, you're like, I think I want to get a loan to get a new house, or I want to move and put my family in a better situation, or get a loan to help my business grow. And the bank was like, I'm not giving you no loan over this 50 grand.
You lost $50,000 on paper on your business, which you're showing as your income. You have negative income.
Right. So it's a domino effect now. Now you stunned your growth for 2 years, because it takes 2 years of tax returns to even get these loans, unless you're doing like the hard money and all the other things of that nature.
Which is,
they're bad.
They're predatory.
That's like getting a loan from the mob. So the interest rate be like 25%.
Yeah, my cousin went through a situation. He had a nightmare scenario with a hard money lender or whatever like that. He acquired a mixed use building. I think his loan might have been like $75,000 or whatever. So he acquires this mixed use building. He's working on it, paying the hard money. He's trying to get, basically, for those of you out there that's not familiar with like real estate investing, the point of like hard money loans is usually just to get you to the point of either sale or refinance. And if you botch anything along the process that prevents you from getting the sale or refinance, unless you have a great relationship with the hard money lender or there's some sort of flexible extension term in there, you're going to go into default period. Mm-hmm. And at that point, they start trying to seize the property and or your personal assets to recover, the loan. So he got to a point where he ended up paying, I want to say like $135,000 on this original $75,000 loan. And they still took him to court and tried to seize the property on top of that. So then I think he ended up having to pay like another $100,000 when his whole total payout should have ended up being like 105 or something like that, just based on the term. But on the rehab got stunted or whatever the case may be. He tried to go to refi per the schedule. He wasn't ready, whatever the case may be. Started the default process, paid him the money, paid him an extra penalty, everything, and they still took him to court and tried to take the property.
Yeah, you got to meet the deadlines.
Yep.
You're not meeting the deadlines.
Put a lien on the property pending the outcome of the court result, the whole everything.
Now, just think if he'd had his paperwork correct from the start, he wouldn't even needed them hard money loans.
Exactly.
He could have actually just went to the bank, got his loans the correct way, paid a low interest rate, and it could have been a 30-year time. He had 30 years now to figure it out.
Yeah.
Versus 30 months.
Exactly.
So you get yourself into these jams when you take these big losses, or you don't know what's going on in your companies or anything of that nature. Just in your regular finance of your job. But all of that starts from a tax return.
Mm-hmm.
So you just need to be mindful of what you're doing into your tax returns so you can make the correct decisions later on in your life. Like,
yeah,
you'll hear other people to be like, oh man, my guy's great. He always gets me a bunch of money back. But you see no growth in your life.
right.
So if you've been getting $10,000 checks for the last 10 years,
Yeah.
and your life is exactly the same it was 10 years, you're like, oh, I make more money,
Yeah.
but you have nothing of value from over that 10 years. You could be making $100,000 for 10 years and getting all these big refunds. I could be making $40,000 and building over time.
Right.
But I could be worth more than you after a certain amount
Because
of time.
you're acquiring assets along the
Correct. And I'm doing everything correctly, and I'm able to get the loans where you're not able to get the loans.
Right.
So then we're not competing with each other anymore. Now you're competing with me and the bank to be better than me. That's impossible.
yeah, you're not going to win.
Not at all.
You're not going to win.
And my income is going to increase at the same time as well.
Yeah. You brought up the scam community. So I have some friends that are scam adjacent. And, they's doing people taxes, last year, the year before, stuff like that, getting people $25,000, $30,000 tax refunds and stuff like that. And even they now are saying this year is down to like 8 to 10 is like the max that they able to, do with all of their finessing and finagling. What is the causation in the drop of like the amounts and stuff due to, I guess, like tax code shifts, what you can claim, what you can't claim? What is the overall reasoning for why that would have such like a dramatic drop in, with the scam returns people was able to get?
So it was only that high originally in a couple last years because of COVID and everything
COVID
that
relief,
happened.
yeah.
So all of those extra programs was out and added into the tax program.
Got it.
So that they can get those numbers, which most people didn't qualify. Then once they seen everybody was scamming so hard through it, they started locking them up.
Yeah.
Then there's a bunch of people that needed those.
Yeah.
Can't get, like even the PPP, PPP, ERC. ERC credit was the tax credit given for payroll. So many people went through that and jammed them up. I've had clients waiting for 2 years. They're legit. And they still haven't got, some of them are just getting letters from 2 years ago because the IRS had it on hold trying to catch on who was stealing or not.
Shit.
So, I mean, and just in our community, we need stuff like that because I think these are black companies that are employing other people.
Yeah.
And they're not getting the funding where you got other people that's getting it and then they're not doing nothing with the money, but they're blowing it. Now we're looking at other companies like, where we going to get a job back?
Right.
And people had to close.
Yeah.
So it's a domino effect on how they affect each other.
Yeah. What do you think the long-term like implications are on the black community from COVID, pandemic, PPP, PUA, the Treasury program and all of that stuff? Like, what do you think is going to be the long-term effects of the financial blowback from all of that money that, got scammed and misappropriated?
So it hurt us drastically. It gave us a false sense of hope, like that we actually have money.
Yeah.
And then it taught us a lot of bad habits since we got a taste of what it's like to have money. It's pretty rough to, if you're making 40 grand and all of a sudden you got 100 grand in your bank account and you bought these new house, new cars and everything, you're living at this level.
Yeah.
And then you lose it. You're just fighting to get back to that, but you don't know none of the work that it takes to get to that.
Because you didn't do the work.
Right. So then that jams you up and you come back into a bigger deficit than you were previously. So
Yeah.
if you use a house, for example, if you got money from COVID or something like that, you might have moved to Delaware now. Like, oh, I'm buying this big house in Delaware. Your income really doesn't support it. They could pay the mortgage, but the actual repairs and the
Maintenance, the
bills,
upkeep,
yeah,
HOA fees, all the other stuff.
eat your checkups, and then you house poor. So then, you were up for a while, but Now times are getting hard, and they are rebacking out everything that they were giving out.
Yeah.
What happens is now your house, we go in a recession, your house goes into foreclosure. Now, before you might have had, at least you own your home in Philly before and you had to bill, but you done sacrificed everything off of this one scam you done pulled.
Took a huge bet on yourself.
And then you can't pull it off.
Yeah.
Then you done lost everything. Now you're in a worse scenario than you were previously,
yeah.
which jams everything up.
Think you made a calculated bet, but in reality, you basically just took everything that you had and put on a roulette wheel,
right?
hoping that it hits your number.
Right. And we go through a recession over every 20, 25 years.
Yeah, it's cyclical.
Yeah, the cycle repeats itself over and over. Yeah. And that's just greed of people. So that's why it happens always, because people get too greedy and they keep just trying more and more deregulations.
Right.
And we go overboard every time.
Yeah.
It's just human nature. Most of us just want to go overboard.
What are some of like the craziest like tax related scams you've seen, like companies try to pull and stuff like that? Either through like just in teachings and learn high level learning, or stuff that you personally like put your hands on. Obviously you don't have to say no names or who or whatever like that, but what's like some of the worst scams that you've seen people try to pull, and what was the outcome of it?
I mean, so as far as people scamming, like I don't take them. That's
right.
First and foremost. So if people come in and they're like, hey, can you play with the numbers, or my old accountant did this, and I'm like, well, you gotta go back to them.
Yeah.
Because I gotta sign off on your document. So we don't even want that type of.
You're indemnified with their return.
So it's like I'm not even trying to push that narrative that I'm even getting in that situation with you, because it doesn't benefit. Because if I do it for one person, then multiple people are going to come.
Do for one, you got to do for all.
Right.
People tell four people tell 8.
Yeah. So I just did it all together. I'd rather take the hit and not make as much.
Yeah.
And do it correctly. And that doesn't mean that we're not getting refund checks. So that's why I tell everybody, like, my refund check can average, like with no kids, I can average between $6,000 to $9,000 on average just for my refund checks.
Right.
But that means my paperwork is done and set up a certain way so that I get those refund checks.
Yeah.
Which also means I'm just paying too much in taxes already.
Got it.
It's not like the government giving me extra money back. So I would let them kill me on my work check, because I don't know how things are going to work out in business throughout the year.
It could be good, it could be great, it could be okay.
Right.
But you protect yourself on the other side by not claiming too much, too many exemptions.
So some years I might end up I might pay a grip at my job and then have to pay a grip on the back end as well. But that's tax planning.
Yeah.
So you should be doing tax planning for like 3 to 5 years out. So I know, like, if I'm wanting a new property, I need to show 2 years of higher income depending on what the situation is. So I'll show it for those 2 years, and then once I get the property, then I shift my books to bring it all back down.
Make money back.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, right. So
and then I'm sure somebody like you is going to take that refund and pay down the principal on the property to where you get to full ownership and having the deed fast.
Correct. Yeah, I'm trying to do as much as I can out of my pocket versus just taking a bunch of loans and jamming myself up. Yeah, that's with anything. Like right now, we're going into a recession. I'm going to refund checks. All my money's going to go to the stock market.
Yeah.
So I'm going to dump anything I can possibly put into the stock market from refund checks, hoping that I come out on the other side once everything turns over.
Yeah.
And then I could have made more money out of that.
Right.
So if you're doing like penny stock and you get into something that's a necessity that really drops. I think Elon Musk dropped like $20 billion or $40 billion in the stock. He ain't bad at eye. That's literally because he knows at some point it has to turn around. That's what you're hoping. I mean, anything can go wrong, but.
And when you at that level, you got to park the money somewhere. You might as well park it somewhere with an upside.
Right.
Like sitting it in your bank account is not going to do you no good. Isn't at all. And if value is being shaved off, if, with a company of his like Tesla, as big as it is, with value being shaved off of your principal moneymaker of how you generate net worth and income, you might as well take some of that money and put it elsewhere that has more of an upside if the bigger companies are going to be, affected by the stock market downturn first anyway.
Correct. That's like Warren Buffett. You seen he just pulled out like
he crazy
$300 billion or something like that out of the market. And he's holding it like cash.
Yeah.
He's holding it from all of his investors. And he's just hoarding cash right now because he's waiting for the crash to happen. So if he owned Tesla was at like 600 a share, and he sold all his Tesla stock.
Right.
Now he has that money sitting, and Tesla drops down. Say if it was the $300 billion he got, Tesla drops down and he sold it at 600, drops down to 300, he buys it all back.
Exactly.
And then it goes back up to 600.
Right. Which is an eventuality.
Yeah, man, that is 300 million and went to 600 million.
Yeah.
He didn't do nothing. All he did was sell high, and then he waited and then bought it back from us.
Yeah.
and then let it rise again.
Yeah.
And that's with everything.
Right.
So it's just a timing thing, and we just got to be paying attention.
So many of these markets, and that's a great point that you made, bro, is that these markets are cyclical, and the smartest people from a strategy standpoint are just savvy enough to know when to buy, when to sell, and vice versa. Like, and that's the only thing that separates them being a high level investor versus somebody that's, doing it on a smaller scale, is that they're consumed with that shit and they're watching it, and they have a team of people that are like, this is the perfect time.
Correct.
Or if somebody like Warren Buffett that's been doing this before any of us was fucking born, he's the think tank of like, oh yeah, I can already see, I've seen this so many times that I know what's about to happen here. Let me get out now.
But we actually know too.
Yeah.
We actually know too. We're old enough that we've all been through the crash in 2008.
Which was crazy.
We actually paid attention to it.
Yeah.
So we about to go through it again, and nobody's not paying attention to it. Like, you're just setting yourself up for these situations.
Yeah.
Everybody's been through a recession by now if you're over 30.
Yeah.
This is not the first one. Even COVID, I don't really consider COVID a recession. That was more of just a COVID. But technically, it was one.
It was a global reset.
Yeah, but I don't really consider that. But you've been through it. So you know what it looked like for hard times that hit. So you should see it coming now. You should be like, you know what? I shouldn't be doing all of the things that I was doing before.
Right.
I should pay more attention to my finances. I should be getting my taxes ready. Like,
I shouldn't take that 8th vacation this year.
yeah.
Me dollar that.
So like big right now is if you want a big refund check, and I'm advising clients, and I'm saying, hey, we're gonna take this big loss, but say if the economy drop and you want to get a new loan, how you gonna get the new loan?
Yeah.
So you're actually gonna miss the boat because you can't get approved for the loan to buy into the market or buy a new property or anything of that nature.
Yeah.
So that you can pull it off and you come out on the right side on the back end.
Right.
Which means if you don't, that's how the gap becomes larger between rich people and poor people. So poor people just settle on it, and that's more of a mindset of poor people too. Like, we can all just be at work. You can be making 300 grand and just do nothing. And you work through your time and you don't get laid off, and you're like, oh, I'm fine. I'm making my 300. I made it through.
Yeah.
And you don't own a home. You're renting. So now you're making 300, but now the rich people have invested all their money.
Right.
And they were making 3 million. Now, when everything turns back around, they're at $9 million. So now your buying power is not the same anymore.
Yeah.
So that's where the adjustment happens, where the gap starts to get increased larger and larger. Because
Right.
you don't have the same buying power that you previously had.
Yeah.
That's where tax is. So the tax is taken from rich people, given to poor people. Yeah, they're robbed. They're putting some of the money in their pocket. Like,
Yeah.
You know you can't get around it, but at least you got some of it.
Exactly.
You could have got nothing.
You could have got zero.
Right.
You could have got a bill.
That's exactly what's happening. Like, you could be getting nothing. So at least the tax is at least getting you something to try to get you through. It's no different. Like, we all grew up poor, so half our friends could have been living in the projects, or we might have been in the projects. That's actually assistance. So in that time frame, some of us figured out how to get out of it.
Yeah.
And got into low income programs, bought homes and things of that nature through the low income program, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I even bought my home through the low income program.
Yeah.
And growing up from down the bottom, that was the adjustment that got me ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
But we all had the opportunity. We just didn't plan correctly.
But then for you, when you did have that large income jump where you complete school, you go through this, you know what I'm saying? You start working here, doing all of the work that you had done, doing all of these different jobs and all of this different sideline work and all of that experience, and then your college degree actualizes itself. Then boom, when you have that huge financial jump, you already have an asset in your pocket that's also appreciating along the line at the same rate that you're appreciating.
Correct. So the income is a bonus. It's not really the end all be all.
Yeah.
You can make 40 grand, you can make 400 grand. The person making 40 grand can actually be doing better than the person making 400 grand. Just taking care of the right situations. And then, like you said, over time, our income should be increasing if we're doing right by ourselves.
Yeah.
Then at some point, hopefully it does meet, and then you can pull off bigger deals and do bigger like investments and things of that nature that set you up for the future.
Yeah.
But I don't think most of us look at it for the future. We look at it for right now.
That right now.
And that right now kills us.
Got a 72-hour purview. Like, what's right in front of me that I got to take care of?
And you can say, like, hey, I got to do what I got to do for right now. But that's not true. Like, we can always scale back.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to do everything that we think we should do or think we do deserve or whatever the case may be. If we scale back or two steps back, you take 4 steps forward.
Right.
And again, in my world, it starts from a tax return.
Yeah.
Like it's always going to always go back to tax. And that's for all of us. Everything is a number. So if you know your paperwork needs to be a certain way, then for you to pull off to that next level, then you should be at that certain way, regardless if you can't afford everything you want. It might suck right now,
Yeah.
but you don't want to go 10 years and you're like, there's still the same problem.
Right.
Versus you just nibbling the butt up front right now.
Yeah.
And you're in a better situation within 2-3 years.
Gotcha.
And it's actually 2-3 tax season, not even 2-3 years.
Yeah.
You got to do right.
Last time we was together, we talked about like, financial planning, and we've actually just dived into it, but more so let's talk about some of what are the most important like pillars of financial planning from like a business standpoint. We're talking about like small businesses, emerging businesses and stuff like that. What are the things they need to be doing to make sure that they setting themselves up for success?
So we already hit that is bookkeeping.
Yeah.
So only way you can actually financial plan is if you have bookkeeping. It would make zero sense. Clients always call me and say, hey, let's just sit down and talk. Like, why would I just want to sit down and talk? And we just hypothetically talking about everything. And we just wasting both our time.
Right.
Without hard numbers.
Let's talk specifics.
Yeah. Like, how much do you make? How much does the business make? Where are all the gaps in the business? You can't tell me those things. So if I can't see them, then how can I advise you to get out of them? So a client might say, hey, what should I be doing better? Like, I'm not in your company, so I don't know what you could be doing better.
Yeah.
Looking from a tax standpoint, you need to make more money. That's the only thing I say. But the money's going out fast too. So I don't know why the money's going out fast. You are actually, and you don't have any books. You're just putting your numbers together year in, hoping that they're accurate.
Right.
Now, I can go to a tax return and say, hey, you should make these adjustments. But that doesn't fix what you got going on all year long that can change.
Yeah, it doesn't fix your operational habits.
Right. So literally, you can, even in jumps, you can be making $100,000. And then even in bookkeeping, at least in bookkeeping, monthly you're knowing what's going on. So you might have an adjustment in December and we might like, hey, don't close that deal out until January 1st. We can shift it out.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I've been paying you all this money for books. It ain't even worth my time. But then you never paid me and you took all that money in December.
Yeah.
And you're like, yo, why do I pay this $90,000?
Yeah, because you should have deferred that payment
Right.
until the next calendar year.
Right. Or we sit there and we're like, hey, these are your numbers. You should be doing these things to bring the tax burden down.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to pay as much, or you should be paying quarterly so that you don't get hit with the bill come. The myth is that since you're going to owe, you file taxes late. So let me file my taxes in April because I know I'm going to owe. But then you don't got the money to pay what you owe in April.
Should have filed in January so that you knew and you got time to get the money up.
Right. So say if you owe $10,000 come April and I'm like, hey, it's going to be $10,000. You're like, I ain't got it. Can they put me on a payment plan? They'll get their money. And then you pay them $100, $20 a month. By the time you don't pay them back, you don't pay them $20,000.
Yeah. If you lucky, because that what did we say last time? The interest compounds daily.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's daily compound interest.
So if you just did what you're supposed to do up front, it wouldn't be as costly for you paying on the back. It's like insurance.
Yeah.
You just want to get it correct the first time so you don't have to spin the block and be paying more later on.
Yeah. Aside from bookkeeping, what are some other ways that like businesses just shoot themselves in the foot when it comes to like compliance?
I mean, from a tax standpoint, it's just knowing what setting you should be in. Like if you automatically net in a profit and it's substantial, you automatically should be switched to a corporation because corporations are taxed at a lower rate.
Right.
Partnerships, you got to pay like the self-employment tax limit. That's just common knowledge for anybody who's preparing paperwork should be able to advise their client. And that's what we got to reiterate. There's nobody who's like super nice in the sense like, oh, I'm just better than all the other accountants.
Yeah.
It's literally we all should be hitting the same numbers in the same ballpark because we're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But if somebody's getting too high of a number, that means they're inflating the numbers.
Yeah. And you should be worried.
Yeah.
And you should be worried.
Yeah. As soon as somebody, like I get clients, they're like, oh yeah, such and such, so they can give me this, but you only got me that. I'm like, well, you should go to such and such. And I'm not even mad about that.
Yeah.
Because it's something that they're doing in there that I wouldn't recommend anyway.
And in 3 or 4 years, when that bill comes due with the penalties added onto it, you're going to wish you went to Tom because I'm going to get you the right amount.
Right.
And I'm going to keep you safe to where there's no bill coming later because you took that extra money, 3-4 years ago.
And we can plan so we can get the correct benefit out of it.
Yeah.
We want to get a benefit out of it. Because it always goes back to getting money. Like, again, we stress that you never can make as much as the bank can give you, or you can never save as much as the bank can give you.
Right.
So, yeah, you got a refund check, but you can't compete now.
Yeah.
Like, it makes zero sense for you to even put yourself into that predicament.
Yeah, that makes sense. As simple as you can you break down the differences between tax avoidance and tax evasion for the audience?
So, so the easiest one is payroll, right? So you got employees and you got contractors. So if you are controlling someone's schedule and you dictate their work,
That's an employee.
they're your employees.
Yeah.
Most people want to 1099 people.
They want to 1099 everything.
Yeah, because they don't want to pay the employer tax, self-employment tax, and all of that for the employee. That's tax evasion. So, like Social Security, you pay 6% out of your paycheck, then I pay 6% as the employer. If I put you as a 1099, I don't got to pay the 6%.
I pay shit.
So one, I just rock, and that was a killer too for employees. You're like, oh, put that so I can write all my stuff off. But now you also don't get my 6% for your retirement.
Exactly.
So you think you want.
You don't get that benefit.
Right. So what happens if I can come in and audit your books and I see that you control your entire staff's day, even tonight, that's tax evasion because you didn't physically pay what you were supposed to pay. You just try to make them into something you wasn't. Now, avoiding paying taxes with, like Elon Musk did when he worked for the government.
Yeah.
He said, hey, I'm going to come run this company and do all these audits for free.
Yeah.
Which he did. He didn't take a salary.
Yeah.
But he got a $40 billion contract
For SpaceX.
to go in space. So he didn't pay any taxes. He didn't work.
Yeah.
He just did this all voluntarily. But then the company got all of this money on the back end, which they're going to spend all of that cash. And I'm sure when he's getting on his jets and driving cars, he's going to write all that off.
It's all under Doge.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I went to Austin, Texas. That was for the government.
Exactly.
I went to Burning Man Festival. That was for the government.
Or when he went with Trump to the Super Bowl.
And that was for the government.
Yeah, that wasn't him.
That's for America. We had to.
If we went to work, we got to pay the taxes on it.
Yeah.
But he didn't go to work. He didn't take a check.
Yeah.
He said, I'm just going to come and hang with you guys for free.
Yeah.
And we call it even.
Create an additional write-off.
Avoiding tax.
A series of additional write-offs.
I mean, that's no different when we talk about like the G-Wagon from the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're avoiding tax by buying anything, that don't make it a good pickup.
Right.
But you avoided the tax, like if your car is in your business name and things of that nature.
Is the super depreciation still out there for this year?
It's always going to be. It's always been a thing.
Okay, gotcha. Well, how come people just blew it up like during the first Trump administration? They made it seem like it was something like brand new. But niggas always get information last, so they blew it up to make it this whole thing. Like, you know, if your car's over 6,999 pounds.
Yeah, this is always the same thing. That's why even when people ask me, I don't really feel like talking about it because I'm like, bro, this has always been a thing. It's just not for you.
Yeah.
Like if it was for you, I'd have brought it up.
Like there's literally like viral videos where they have a whole list, the top 10 cars that meet the weight requirement for super depreciation. Like, did you know the GLE 53 now was over 7,000? Like shit like that. Like, and that's looking for tax write-offs.
That's to make you buy into that. They're the lifestyle marketers.
Yes.
So they just flash a whole bunch of stuff and flash it in your face, knowing it's going to get your attention and you want to buy into it because you want that car. You're not thinking about, can you really get that car? Is it effective? Or why would you get that car?
Yeah.
You're just excited. And you're like, oh, he must know what he's talking about. Half of these people don't even own a G-Wagon. They just rented it and then they're showing you it.
Yeah.
So you can send them their money and then they buy a G-Wagon with your money after you know. After you done gave them all your cash.
And if in this situation where you don't buy it and you lease the G-Wagon, you don't get that super depreciation, dude.
So you still get to write the G-Wagon off because it's still part of the business.
Got it.
Like it's a little different, but you still get to write the G-Wagon off, no matter how you want to spend it.
Okay,
gotcha. It's a write-off for you. It's just depending on how you want to write it off. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But it's still.
So it's just a process thing.
Yeah, it's nothing new. That's the bottom line. It's
right.
been around forever. It's just now.
Niggas discovered it 6 years ago.
Yeah, and they're pushing it. It's no different. Like I seen a guy online talking about if you have a party, if you're having a birthday party, do it as a company and then do some marketing promotions through that. I mean, that's not nothing new. Like,
yeah, that's been around since the beginning of time.
What you think Rockefeller was doing? Like you thought they were paying for those parties on the videos and the yachts and things. No,
absolutely not.
It was part of the business of what they were doing. This is nothing new. It's just getting us to buy into it so that we can give them our money.
Yeah,
which doesn't really benefit us much.
There was a situation that blew up a couple of years ago. Not really blew up, but mainly because I watched his channel. But Grant Cardone, real estate investor, whatever, got to the end of the year, he had this huge fucking tax bill, like $60 million or something like that. So he's like, I gotta start a new company to reinvest this money in. I gotta find a company expense large enough to warrant this, or I gotta cut the government like a check. And he went and bought a private jet with the money and whatever like that, and was basically like hounded this jet broker. It's like December 19th. And he's like, yo, I have to have this jet sourced, registered to Grant Cardone Enterprises and all of that by, December 27th or whatever, some arbitrary date that he made up or whatever like that, in order to get this in. And he ended up doing it, whatever. Bought the jet outright, no tax bill.
Correct. Which that is possible in real life. But the flip side is we hear that. So he makes $400 million a year.
A year, yes.
And then he buys a jet and he be like, all right, I bought a jet and I'm not gonna pay no tax bill. But then that situation, he still has capital and access to nature to go back to the bank and like, hey, I need to do something else.
Yeah.
And he's gonna make another 400 next year.
Right.
Now, flip side is we made 30,000. And then we were like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna buy this new Honda Civic and I ain't gonna pay no tax bill and I'm be cool. And that tax debt took our 30,000 now. And now it say we made $0 last year.
Right.
The next year you be like, man, I'm buying a house.
No, you ain't.
You're not even getting another Honda.
Yeah, you're gonna keep renting.
Yeah, you're not. You first of all, you probably can't even rent now because your tax return say 0.
Right.
So you got to stay in the unit you're in. You might, oh yeah, I think I want to move somewhere else now.
Yeah.
But they might ask for your tax return.
Right.
They're gonna see your tax return like, well, you made $0. How you paying for your
Right.
So you want to get somebody else to co-sign for you and everything else.
Right.
So those things affect us drastically, and we don't even think about it.
Yeah. Damn, that's something to think about. Which is why I like doing these episodes with you, because you always give me, either reaffirm what I already think as correct, or give me a new way to look at a situation and be like, yeah, like just pay the bill. Just pay the bill, bro.
Just not too much.
Yeah. Pay just enough.
You want to pay the least amount that you have to pay, but we gotta pay something if you want to grow.
Yeah. Last time we was here, we talked about the beneficial ownership information and all of that. What was the end result with that? Did
They
people?
canceled it.
Oh, they canceled it.
Yeah.
Okay.
For right now, it's canceled.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if they want to spend the block,
Here's the thing. The way I looked at it, I was like, yo, with all of the chicanery and flamming that Trump and Elon is doing, I'm like, I don't think they want nobody knowing who owns what company,
Right.
Because they're probably the biggest culprits of like secretly owning some shit that's some corporation from Mozambique or something like that. They don't want nobody knowing
Right.
who owns what. So I kind of figured they was going to end up getting rid of that.
But that doesn't mean it won't come back with the next president.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Yeah, it is right now, but we don't know how it's going to turn out later because, I mean, it keeps shifting whenever they want to shift.
Right.
And I'm sure whoever is coming in after Trump is
It's
going to change.
going to be they're going to change everything.
Yeah.
It's going to be a complete overhaul. The same way he changed everything from Biden, it's going to be the same thing all over again. They're going to overhaul everything.
Yeah, because there's going to be a lot of hits that we're going to take
Yeah.
through this next 4 years, with just from the tax and financial standpoint that most of us aren't going to recover from.
From a tax and financial standpoint, when you look at, the end of, what his presidential term was going to be, the end of 2028 going into 29, what do you think that's going to, what is that going to look like what is the country going to look like from a financial standpoint? Is it just going to be a bigger chasm between rich and poor?
Yeah, so that's every year.
Yeah.
The gap just gets larger and larger. It just gets larger faster when he's there.
Right.
Because he speeds the process up, and we're just not in the loop to understand exactly what's going on. Like they're talking about giving out $5,000 to everybody, and the people are excited. Like,
Yeah,
oh man,
we audited the government. We found all this extra money.
we're firing people.
We're firing motherfuckers. USAID is some bullshit.
It's
5,000.
It sounds great. Like, oh yeah, I got an extra $5,000, but if they give all of us an extra $5,000, what are you giving to the other rich people?
Yeah.
So the ones they're definitely getting something too. They got these companies like, I'm gonna give you $50,000 each to your business. Then on the flip side of that, they're cutting jobs everywhere to give you that $5,000.
Yeah.
So that means less people have jobs, which means the cost of living is going to get killed because all these people aren't going to be working to spend money and things of that nature. So we're still in the jam. That $5,000 going to be going like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then what's going to happen after that $5,000 is going back? That $1,200 or $2,400 per person, or it's $1,200 per person. Some people getting like 24, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That was gone.
It was going by before people got it.
So, but all the rich people were getting PPP loans for $20 million.
Yeah.
So that killed us. That's how the housing market got so expensive.
Man, when I saw like the Lakers and Roof Chris tried to get PPP loans, I said, yo, y'all some cold motherfuckers, man. Like, it was like, oh, we can't do that. Like, oh shit.
Why were you taking them? Why were you taking it?
It's free money. It was forgivable money.
You can't knock them. The law says this is what it's for.
Yeah, it's this amount of employees or less. They look, we got 79 employees.
That's
Technically, that's me.
It's me. And I don't care. I want to try it. So they got a lot of people got the money.
Yeah.
And then some people actually went out of business after they got the money still.
Yeah.
They took the money and they invested into other stuff and they still went out of business.
Peaced out.
Whereas we got some of our money and we still were stuck in the same space.
Went to Tulum. We got Don Julio. You know what I'm saying? We got Don and Julio on the menu.
So yeah, it just doesn't look good for us as a people in these type of scenarios. I mean, some of us gonna make out like fat cats in it.
Yeah.
Like I'm watching it all the time and I'm waiting for my opportunity to make a killing off of it. And it sounds like it sucks. Like I want a recession. Recessions reset people's life. And some people lose their job and it sucks that some people will lose their job. But if the cost of living just keeps rising how it is, working or not, we won't be able to afford it.
Right.
So people are like, oh, I didn't work during that time. Well, you'll find another job, bro. But if you still working and if you're making $20 an hour and the cost of living go up and you need $50 an hour, you're gonna get a raise for like $2.
Yeah.
So now you're at 22 and you're still poor. But if a recession happens, the cost drops 100% and you can go back to get another $20 job.
For sure.
So I mean, it's just a little timing.
Yeah, that job is going to still exist regardless of the economic conditions of the economy, unless that company goes out of business.
Right.
And them going out of business is a result of some other thing, not this present recession that's right in front of it.
And something's going to replace them. So there's still going to be a job somewhere, somehow.
Yeah, Amazon will come in and buy that shit and create a new fulfillment center or whatever like that.
But you don't want the cost of living to get too far out of hand to where we can't afford to just even be here. It's no different from like gentrification. So you living in, like I explain to people, Philadelphia is one of the only major states that we can afford to live in. So when we all talk about leaving, I be confused on why. Because I'm like, where else could you afford to live in a major state? Yeah. And no one can think of that. And they're like, oh, I just want better. I'm like, well, that's a lot of pockets in Philadelphia where there's better. So why don't you move into those?
Tony Yayo made that example recently on a Vlad interview. He was talking about like, he was like, yo, I could take $400,000 and go buy like one of the best houses you can buy somewhere in Pennsylvania, like right outside of Philly or central Pennsylvania. Where I take $400,000, I could buy like a mini mansion. Why the fuck would I buy that same house for $4 million in Calabasas? He was like, I just can't make sense of it.
Right. And in Pennsylvania it's growing. Yeah. So why wouldn't you invest where you're growing?
Pennsylvania has a huge millionaire population too.
Yes.
Huge.
Because it's affordable. Yeah. Like there's a lot of people in New York who like, oh, I could just get on the train. Yeah. Like, wow, they were living in North Jersey. They're like, oh, Philly's kind of cheap. Yeah. So why not just come to Philly? I come buy this house for $500,000, the same size as I would get in New York for an apartment. Right. And I catch the train up there, or I'm working remote, or whatever the case may be.
I mean, they don't have cars anyway.
Yeah, right. Right. They just shooting right downtown, hop on the train. So when one from them, let me get 3 of those. They come here and buy 3 houses. They wait it out. Then the property value just increased. Then we're complaining like, oh man, we can't even get back in here.
The last data update that they did, they said like 1 in 7 New Yorkers is a millionaire.
Easily.
1 in 7.
Easily.
Yeah, you have to be like. You gotta make 200 just on the wake up to survive. Like if you live in the PJs, you need 200 a year.
Yeah. So once you're a homeowner in New York, you're a millionaire. It's just really that simple. Yeah. It's easy. And it's not like it's new owners in New York. These people that have had their places for years or in their family for years. Yeah. That you're definitely a millionaire easily there. But that's no different how you could be here. That's why I'll be convincing people like you shouldn't really be leaving Philly in a sense. Or you should be owning something in Philly because the cost of living has to go up. Why not own something here so you can get it on the back end and get the money? But we're just not thinking that far ahead. We just want to care about what's happening today.
Yeah. Got to get more of a long-term view on these situations in order to set ourselves up for success individually and as a community.
Correct.
Because I think the biggest thing holding Black people back is we don't have an economic base, and that changes everything. If you have a strong economic foundation, when you look at all of us and it's like, all right, spending power is one thing, wealth is a whole nother thing. We got all this spending power and no wealth. Right. Because people get the money and give it away.
Right. Yeah, there's a bunch of avenues where we could keep the money and just don't keep the money. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I can't even tell you where to start. I mean, there's different variations.
What shifted your mindset, or did you always have this mindset of like, saving, fiscal responsibility and all of that?
So it's actually common sense. And people say,
common sense is not common.
So, and that's not even a numbers thing. It's just in the simple fact that I'm like, Oh man. So even if just thinking of like we all knew people who were just in the streets. And you just looking at them in the streets or barbers and hairdressers, I'm like, man, you sure make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Why you got less than my mind? Something is off. Or even if you knew people that was hustling and you seen them outside all day long and they were hustling.
Yeah.
And I worked somewhere else and I'm like, man, yeah, you got a car, but we both got the same Jordans. I just don't got no car. And then you got booked and I ain't seen you in a long time.
And then you came home and you broke his shit.
Yeah, something's off.
You got to start from scratch all over again.
Something's off. And I get the art of hustling and the idea that you could make it big. But some things I just be like, yeah, that one not. No, the risk not worth it.
Let me ask you this. This is a hypothetical, but me and Dan talk about this, and I talk about this to other people all the time. Do you buy into the certain people that's high-level drug dealers could, like, run a corporation or, like...
Yes.
You buy into that?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
How of the percent, if it's 100, how many of them do you think can do it?
Most. It's an attitude that got to shift. That's it.
Okay.
So logically, it's the same exact thing.
Yeah.
It's just the only difference I can't kill you.
Shit going left.
Yeah, you know, I can't offer you. Like, if you can actually, because you got to think, they got a bunch of people to come through and help them build. That's the same thing as a business.
Okay.
It's actually, the business is exactly the same.
So the leadership part is the most important part.
Correct.
Okay.
And they put it together in the system. Somebody had to build the system.
Yeah.
And then there's a hierarchy and everything like that, and the infrastructure. That's the same as a company.
Yeah.
The problem is the thinking module of the shift of following the guidelines of the law. So if you say, "Oh yeah, you didn't deliver my pack, I can kill you."
Yeah.
But then you in an offense, you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill you." And you're like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna work
I'm
here."
calling FBI.
Yeah. It's not gonna work here.
For me, I agree with everything you're saying. I just think that the thought process part is so hard to get over, which is why out of that 100, probably 3 can do it. Like Jay-Z, Jay Prince, it's like a finite.
Are you talking about to actually do it?
Well, like I'm just saying, it takes someone with that mindset, I'm saying, to actually do it, because to resist the temptation to be what you've always been for people is hard as fuck.
Correct. Even just the thinking shift. When I was thinking of it, I'm just saying it's exactly the same. But I don't think most people can shift the idea of from changing from one side to the other.
Yeah.
That's what we all should. That's just even if you're not into the streets or anything like that, just working. So workers want to become entrepreneurs, but half of the work you can't shift to know that your team comes first.
Yeah.
You'll be like, oh man, I need a new car,
right,
or I need a new range, or you're mad because you got to pay your staff who's helping you get to a space before you get paid and understand you got to struggle. So it's a mental shift in every side of the company or business or whatever you in.
There's a reason why over time, 6% of people at a given time period have been entrepreneurs constantly over and over and over and over and over again, because it's a mindset thing more than anything. It's not necessarily aptitude, it's mindset. And it's like, if you don't have the right mindset, no matter how smart or sharp you are, you're going to fail at being an entrepreneur.
Correct. I mean, most companies, what is it, like 60% of the companies fail within first 2-3 years, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, most people aren't entrepreneurs. You can be self-employed, but most people aren't entrepreneurs.
Yeah, being self-employed, you could be self-employed, be super successful working for yourself, having to maybe contract out this or that, whatever that supports you in being the system. But actually designing, running a system, and being a leader of people, not many can do that.
I mean, you got people. So they barely can pay their tax bill. Like, you missing payroll just because of their personal habits that jack things up.
Yeah,
and that's part of being a boss. Like,
I know you said don't do it, Tom. I had to go to the casino.
Yeah,
I had to go. No, you didn't. I'm telling you, I had to go.
Yeah,
they gave me a free room for 2 days. I had to go.
And those things that stunted you from making payroll, now you got people quitting.
Yeah.
And those things just don't work out in your favor. So yeah, it's more so of a mental shift. Like the ideology of the way you think and the behavior, yeah, it could work. Or if you can partner with somebody else that can actually pull that side off and handle that side for you, then you can just be the talent.
Right.
It's just like if you use Jay-Z for the example, he was the talent. And then he just picked everything else as he went along. Like he was able to see and make the adjustments. That don't mean he still didn't want to kill you. He just like, you know what?
I want to. I'm just not going to.
Yeah, I got you. I'm gonna figure out some other way to get you. And if you can make that shift, that's where it benefits you.
Yeah.
But it's that hustler mentality is just exactly the same though.
Right.
It don't make a difference if you're white, black, Indian, whatever the case may be. The idea is the same idea and the concept is the same concept.
Yeah.
It's just, can you physically execute it? And executing is the hard part.
Right.
So yeah, most people just can't see past tomorrow to execute the idea of what they want. They had a good idea, like, oh yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
But
what's the
pulling it
follow
off,
through?
yeah,
idea?
how do you get there? What do you got to do? What do you got to sacrifice? In order, even going to school, like people say school's not that important. You pay a whole bunch of money, but then you're on YouTube trying to learn from everybody else. Like,
should just went to school, dog.
and you didn't have to pay the Yale prices. You could have went to community and learned the same exact thing.
Yeah.
At community versus you saying, hey, I went to Drexel. You just got to make sure you're making the right decisions so that it'll benefit you accordingly.
Yeah, whether you go to a community college, Ivy League college, or anything in between, the goal is to refine yourself and to make yourself smarter, more strategic, more savvy, more understanding, or more capable and functional of pulling off whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Correct. And building a relationship with the people who
in
could
that
assist
community.
you to pull it off. So networking is big. Networking is big in that scenario. But you got to play your own role first in order even to network. So if you're building yourself up in every aspect, the people will find you.
Yeah.
So it's just like Kay be on me all the time, like, oh man, you gotta be outside. And I'm like, I don't really like being outside. Like I be being outside with you guys.
Right.
And we do stuff together, but to actually go out and network and kissing babies, checking the job with everybody, that's not who I really am.
Yeah.
But if you're building yourself and you're doing the right things, as you grow, the right people start to come around anyway.
Right.
Because you're adding value just like they're adding value. So y'all in rooms, you don't have no choice but to talk now. And you're like, oh man, I know you probably don't like me and for real. I'm like, I don't even really know you.
Right.
And then you're like, man, you know what? I thought you was a bad guy. You know, we might can pull something off now.
Yeah.
Because we both find use of each other now.
Shit, multi-million-dollar companies have been formed that way. Like,
and we gotta talk for real.
Yeah, I thought this way, but actually now that I met you, it's fucking great.
Right. And then you build off of those networks so that you can get it. But first you gotta build yourself up to get there. And that building yourself up part is where people lack. Because you don't have all of the things you need to get what you want out of the next person. You just want something from the next person because they have more.
Right.
And that's just any relationship or situation or friendship or anything like that. If whatever you want, you got to be able to give back something to match that from whatever the person needs. So if you trying to get into business and you can say, oh, Tom, like, I know you got this going on. What you think that we can pull something all together? Now I'm like, hey, how does that help me?
Yeah.
Like something has to happen. You can't be like, oh man, you get to be with me. Like what?
That's one of the first things they taught me in corporate training when I started doing sales. They said the with them, what's in it for me? Like that's the number one thing that most people are, considering when they get a business proposal or opportunity. What's in it for me? And if you can't explain that, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get nothing.
Yeah, same thing about it. When we first sat down, our first time physically talking, I didn't say nothing that I wanted. Yeah. I mentioned everything that I can give you. And then said, can you help me? You're like, what you need help with? I don't know yet, but I can help you with something though. It's more of me trying to figure out what I can negotiate and give first.
Right.
And then we can build on. Like when you're in certain avenues and corners with people, you know what people do. I might just don't have that idea of what we can piece together that will benefit my side. But I'm sure something you got that I'm going to need. Yeah. Now let me just tell you and sell you on me first. Right. And then you're like, all right, so I do need these 10 things. And the things that I'm into are necessities. So I know you're like, all right, so you do business. And that's the part most people struggling is business. Yeah. So I'm like, I can take care of your business side and help you out. Or I can teach you about the banks. I can tell you how to get the money. We can fix the accounting side. I'm into the real estate. I can teach you all of this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Now it's a value exchange.
Right. And you can be like, well, let me go through your life and see what you're struggling with. I'm like, just fix it for me because it's jacked up somewhere. Yeah. And then you do your part and then everything works out in everyone's favor versus most people are just looking to receive something.
Yeah, they're just looking to extract.
Yes.
There's a saying that I came across recently, which is givers givers need to set a limit on how much you give because takers have no limit on how much they will take from you.
Correct. Now, if you take that back to tax, right? Nobody want to pay tax, but they want to receive all the benefit from tax. Yep. So it has to be some type of balance somewhere in order to pull it off. Yeah. For the business idea to work. So, I mean, again, if you want more, if you even think about if you look at the suburbs are normally better because they pay tax.
Right.
Property taxes, they're normally higher incomes, they're paying more taxes.
The money flows back through the community.
Correct. So then that school is better. Well, then in the inner city, most people aren't paying tax.
Right.
And then you can say, oh, it's because of the jobs and things of that nature. But we also got to invest in ourselves first so that we can get those jobs. So if you say, I mean, and there's no knock on any job because there's a space for all of us to work.
Absolutely.
And we all have to fill a void. But we're all supposed to grow so if I come in TP taxes and I'm doing personal returns. When I first started out, I did all of them. I was doing all of them by myself, and then I had help. Now, as we've grown and gotten bigger, I really can't do personal returns. And it's not that I don't want, because I love interacting with the people.
Yeah.
But it's just overwhelming for me to get the time to the business returns and the personal returns. So I help out with personal returns whenever. I do get a lot of problems with people because they say, well, I want you to do it. I'm like, well, I have 6 other accountants in here and they're very
let one of them do it.
Right. They're very well qualified to take care of you and help you out. Now, I review and I'm on the back end to help you out. If something goes wrong, then I'm here to help out on the back end of that too, to make sure we correct them. But my idea is I have to knock out these business returns because that's where I'm most useful at.
Yeah.
What if I just say, you know what, I don't never want to grow. I'm just going to always on no personal returns. How do the company grow? More people in here to do the business returns now if it's not me. I would have to go find somebody else then to pull it off.
Especially because you're more likely to get, number one, repeat business, but then also referral-based business from other businesses because business owners know business owners.
And they know regular people.
And they know, they got employees, they know regular people.
So they're shifting everybody to come back like, hey, everyone should code.
It's a better value proposition.
Correct. So it helps us grow, whereas, and that's the give and take of the scenario. So even though people with regular personal return, they might be like, well, of course, some high value clients on a personal side, I still have to do those people too. And that's more of a relationship base too.
Yes.
So, and it's not like I'm just picking who's better. I have to do what fits better for the company so that we can grow to a space where we want to get to.
Gotcha.
And it could be like, you come in here and you be like, hey, I only want to go to Tom. And I'm like, nah, I can't do your tax. I only get a personal return. And you're like, yeah, these interviews are dead. So what am I really going to do now, right? So it's certain things I know to build that relationship in doing business.
Yeah,
you have to do.
Got to do it.
But in the grand scheme of things, we all have to grow in order to prosper the way we want to prosper.
Yeah.
So some things you will take a hit back from those things. And I do get heat from some personal people to be like, oh, why can't you do them? And I'm like, oh, I just can't. But I've got someone that's very good that's easily going to replace me to do it. And y'all can build that connection. And they'll always be there to help you out.
Right.
Versus you have limited access to me and then you need help with something and you can't get the proper help that you need from me so that you can get to where you want to go.
Right.
And they're telling you the same thing that I'm telling you. And if they had a problem, they're coming to me and they're going to ask me like, hey, what do you think about this? And then like, all right, well, make these adjustments. Then I'll come back to you and then they'll go over the paperwork with you, how you see fit.
Right.
But we all should be looking to that. If we're getting better in that aspect, it's just like, if you start off and you're making 40 grand and you got kids, you get these big refund checks because you're getting the earned income credits, 30 grand, et cetera, et cetera. Now you go from 40 to 60 and then you owe money because you never fixed your W-4s because you was getting them earned income credits before you don't qualify for anymore. Now you mad at me saying, hey, what you do wrong? Why you ain't getting the money?
That's a front end thing. You messed that up, not me.
Right. And we told you to stop that. Now it court you now.
Yeah.
And you consistently do that year after year after year. But you're like, all right, you're growing on one end, but mentally you're not growing on the other end saying, hey, I know my income has shifted. I got to do it the correct way now so that I don't have the same problems.
Right.
And then that's where it all goes downhill from because you're jamming yourself every year. You might be behind on tax payments.
Right.
And if you're doing it on your taxes, I know you're doing it in your personal life, just regular stuff. So, because I tell everyone, you can physically learn an individual just from reading that tax paperwork, which I can see all your bad habits. If I'm in your books, I really can see it.
Yeah.
I can see everything you're doing.
And I think that's why people would rather they want to have a high level conversation rather than a dialed in one because they don't want to have to look in the mirror and face whatever that is when you make that analysis based on what you see in front of you with that data.
Correct. That's the main thing of what it is. It's just no different from speaking to individual, I'll be like, hey, you make 40 grand. How come don't you own a home? They're like, I can't afford a home. I'm like, well, you actually can. You go through programs of that nature and you actually can buy an affordable home. You don't need the $300,000, $400,000 home.
Right.
There's houses around here. I've seen them 80 grand.
Yeah.
They be like, oh man, you don't know any better. I got kids. You don't have any kids. And I'm like, well, I mean, I was poor at one point in time.
Yeah. Believe it or not.
I bought a house and I made I was making 32 grand.
Yeah.
And I bought a home. And they were like, oh man, that was so long ago. I'm like, well, I'm literally dealing with clients. They make 32 grand.
Yeah.
And they bought a home. and they have kids.
Yeah.
So I'm confused on how you at 60 grand can't pull it off. And you're telling me I don't know any better because I'm not making that anymore.
Right.
But I'm telling you, I'm experiencing, I experienced it myself, and I'm helping other people get it. So I'm teaching you based off of experience of what's happening around me.
Right.
Even though I don't have kids, I know you spend too much on your kids. I'm looking at it. I'm just looking at it. Oh, my kids need all this. No, they don't.
Yeah, they don't know all this bullshit.
Yeah. Now, would you think more? I literally had a conversation. Would you think your kid deserve the new clothes or you die and leave them a house? They were like, but I want my kids to have nice stuff and better education. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But if we both have kids and your kid go to the fancy private school, my kid go to a regular private school, what's going to happen? I'm going to dump a whole bunch of houses down to my kid. Then your kid got the education to teach my kid how to keep the money. So your kid can work for my kid to help out because you didn't do the right investments to pass anything down. Yeah, and that's not me saying education is not important. It means you just still need to do the right stuff so that you can give the kids something later on.
Right.
So I understand it from every aspect. Yeah, there's always little tweaks that I won't know. But that's your job. You're the adult that got to figure the little tweaks out.
Right.
I'm just giving you the overall concept of how it's supposed to work. And then you're supposed to tweak it to fit what you want.
Man, it's a perfect way to end it off.
Yeah, it's that's pretty much what it is. I mean, even if you look at like business, like I'm not the typical accountant. Most people would say
You a gangster accountant?
most people wouldn't even think that I am an accountant just from my behavior, how I act, and how I carry myself. But I know my stuff.
Yeah.
So
which is all that matters.
Right. So it's me doing what I'm supposed to do, and then my tweak to it, which draws in the people that match me, versus me trying to be something that I'm not.
Right.
And that's the same for anything in life. If you're working towards something and someone puts you on to the game, then you just tweak it a little bit to fit what you need to do so you can progress and move forward.
Yeah. Man, another amazing episode with our guy, Tom Pender, TP Taxes. He's a community resource, real estate investor, accountant. We still got another month for personal returns to get done. Still doing $75 simple returns?
Correct.
$75 simple returns to the end of tax season, 215 TP Taxes. If you need to file an extension,
got to tomorrow.
got to tomorrow to get that extension in. If not, it's $400 per member, partner, or whatever, with that organization. Email tptaxes@tptaxes.com. Website, tptaxes.com. We right here in the heart of West Philadelphia, 5613 Walnut Street. Contact, pull up, send an email. Make sure y'all lock in with the best accountant in the city of Philadelphia and his firm, TP Taxes. Appreciate you again, bro.
Good looking, man.
We out of here.